What's good, everybody? It's man Big Dub coming live and at you. Another True Players podcast episode. I got my hermano here, Matthew from Jacobin Sports Show and Knicks Believe Pod, also the author of District.land. Join us as we preview. We have to recap the New York Knicks, Detroit Pistons series, and also preview the Knicks versus Celtics series in the second round. Is going to happen tomorrow on Cinco de Mayo. Just keep in mind.
Yes, it is. Get your holiday ready.
Exactly. So make sure if the Knicks are losing, just keep your drinking to a minimum, please. We want you to get home safe to your families.
If they're winning, whatever you're drinking, let it roll.
Exactly. Now, Matt, thanks for joining me back on the show. It's been a while since you've been on the show, but
it has been. Man.
Yes. But let's get straight to it, man. 2 minutes left, fourth quarter. What are you thinking?
So, Game 5 was the only game in the whole series. Like, every game basically was close enough in the last couple of minutes that either team could have won.
Mm-hmm.
Every game I felt like they were going to win other than Game 5. Game 5 didn't feel the same to me.
Mm-hmm.
But Game 6, they're down 7. It's 2.5 minutes left. It doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not. I honestly wasn't nervous. Now, if Brunson wasn't there, let's say, then I still. But like with Brunson there, very specifically, I was like, and maybe because I've been playing a lot of 2K the last couple of weeks, like a lot of 2K, man. I'm like 2.5 is all day. They got plenty of time. And you saw the big call was when they let that 3-point play on Schroeder when that they let it stand. I thought the officiating the whole series I thought was good. I thought they were in terms of balance. I never felt like it's they missed stuff, but they got that call. And honestly, it's what I thought all series. You saw it especially in Game 1. You saw it a little bit in Game 6, not as much, but as a group, these Pistons have never been through any of this before, like at all. And the Knicks have, all of them pretty much have been. Bridges has been to the finals. Brunson, Towns, OG's got a ring. He didn't play in that playoffs, but like they've all been to conference. They've been there, not as a group, but they've all been there. And
Campaign, don't forget Campaign was in that Phoenix team.
Campaign was integral to them getting there. So Shamit. So I wasn't nervous. Especially, and this is different than you can appreciate this. Back in the day, if the Knicks are in the playoffs and they're down, not even 7, but like if they're down enough late, there was always a sense of like, because they just didn't have the offense to make it up. Like they might lock that team down the last 10 minutes, but they may not score the points. And 10 years ago, the really good year under Carmelo, once they got to the playoffs, Carmelo, remember that Pacers series, Carmelo and like Shumpert were the only guys who would even shoot, and Copeland when he would play. But like the rest of them suddenly got those Kevin Willis alligator arms, and nobody wanted to take a shot. I wasn't afraid because this team very specifically, okay, you need 7 points in 2.5 minutes. That's nothing.
Right.
Towns will get you 5 in 20 seconds. Like that's nothing. So, and it really was the team that made me feel good. Like you might think, well, you can get the points back, but can you stop Cunningham? You can't stop him, but I'll take OG giving me a chance versus most people in the league. So I was not afraid. I was very elated and relieved when they won, but like I wasn't afraid. But I know a lot of people did not feel the same way that I did at that point, and I'm curious.
I didn't.
Yeah, I want to know. So set the scene for me. There's 2:30 left. They're down 7. It's been a night. What are you thinking and feeling? You're expecting now Game 7.
I was playing a Game 7 because the Knicks in history have known to lose big games like this. When they get down by 7, and boom, it's over. But I must say, the dunk by mikalbridges over Cunningham really, that really started up the comeback in that game. I don't care what anybody tells me. I was starting to get down on mikalbridges late in the season because I felt he wasn't putting up the numbers I felt he should. People saying people are okay with him giving 17 points per game, but in all actuality, Matt, he should be the third scorer on that team. This is a guy who dropped 24 points per game with Brooklyn last year as leading scorer.
Brooklyn asked him to. Do you think the Knicks? I feel I'm going to check this real quick. My suspicion, and maybe this is a matter of aggression. Maybe this is a matter of one guy was new and one guy wasn't. I feel like, let's see, that OG probably got more shots than Bridges. Let me see how much though, because you're right. In Brooklyn, he was the lead. He was the lead option. He got all the shots he wanted. This year, Bridges took more shots than OG. Yeah, just OG. God, where did OG beat him at the line? OG made twice as many free throws because OG goes to the basket.
Yeah,
which is another. I think I don't think you're alone in that either. You know, I think Bridges. I think I just saw the stat that Bridges played like he has some terrible free throw numbers. Like just that he never gets. He never gets there. Right. And like how in baseball, this happens a lot in baseball. When a team is slumping, fans will get upset because they'll be like, they look like they don't care. They have no energy. And it's not that they don't have energy. It's because if you're not hitting, there's nowhere to run. So like a losing team always looks like, what's wrong with it? There's no energy. Right. With the Knicks and with you have to help me, Dom.
The Pistons.
Yeah, no, but who are we just literally talking about?
The Nets, the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, Bridges OG.
Bridges OG, yeah.
So you're gonna have to pick this up, Dom. I tell you, my brain has been on overdrive. I was going somewhere good. I'll find it.
Yes.
But I can't think of it right now.
Definitely.
Sorry, man.
But the fact that OG takes the ball to the basket, gets him to the line more than Bridges. But I like to see when they run the offense with Thibodeau runs the offense. And I see him run post plays for OG. I want to see some post plays for Bridges as well because he's fantastic within the arc, inside the arc. He's fantastic with the 2-point with the mid range game.
Yeah, he can shoot threes.
Yeah.
Now, okay, let me ask you this because this was so. I wrote about this issue a lot during that series. Like, there's kind of a tension between. This happens with great players. It used to happen with Jordan. Brunson's so good that when he's there, especially in these types of games, it's very easy to like give him the ball and he's so good. This isn't like, okay, like some guys want the last shot. They're not really that good at it. No, he's that good at it. So he's always going to get it. And on one level, like it's hard to argue with the results.
Right.
But now that you're heading into, and obviously we're going to talk about the Celtics more, but like now that you're looking forward to a series where your degree of difficulty is about to get a lot higher.
Exactly.
Like at some point, and I wonder if I really am looking. I don't think they're going to win this series. I don't think that's news. But I'm really interested in how they lose it because going into the offseason, I'm very curious. I thought that last month when Brunson was out, that maybe like, and it could still happen. Like, you see now more what OG can do when you let him. You see what Bridges can do when you let him. When you get to the highest levels in the playoffs, you don't want to ask Jalen Brunson. Somebody told me right before Game 6, they were like, man, I hope Brunson, I hope he has one of those games. And I was like, if he does, I'm not going to complain. And it turns out he did. But I'm like, with all the moves the Knicks made, one of the points of this season, which is different than last season, when they got to the end last season, like Brunson had to be Superman because there was nobody else. This team is not supposed to be in that position. You've got Towns. You've got Bridges on Oganunoby. So Brunson shouldn't have to do that. And when you're playing a team like the Celtics, like, do you think that that you're most likely to win against Boston or Cleveland or OKC because your 6'2" incredible guard pulled you single-handedly over those three teams, or because you were able to go to Bridges when he had it, you were able to go to OG when he had it? I feel like that's what separates the Knicks from the Celtics. Right. Tatum's the best player in the series.
Yes,
but they don't need him every night. Like some nights, it's Derek White's night. His matchup means he's got it. And Tatum will do other things. Some nights it's JaylenBrown. Some nights it's Pritchard, KP, whatever. With the Knicks in the big games, it's always been Towns had some really, really good games in that series, but like it's always Brunson. And I'm curious, like what you're saying about Bridges, like if they lose this series with Brunson trying to do it all, because Jordan did that for a while, and eventually Jordan had to figure out like I can't. And I think I don't think Brunson's selfish. I think he's sharp. I think he's learning all this on the fly too. And if 2 weeks from now you and me are talking about the Knicks in the conference finals, and Brunson just had like a Bernard King level series, you will not hear any complaining.
Right.
I just don't know if that's the. So I think what you're saying is what we're all hoping for. Let's see if we see it. Like, you know.
Well, what's been missing in this series, with the series against Detroit, which they were fortunate to get past in 6 games, is the lack of bench play from Bridges. I mean, not Bridges, but McBride, especially. Right. Cameron Payne, that was game 1. That was him. When they went on that 21-3 run, that was Cameron Payne.
Yeah. He'll give you one of those, every now and then.
But I'm concerned about McBride right now.
Yes. I'm not. Here's why I'm not totally concerned about him. Last year, if you remember in the Philly series, the Knicks were about to close it out in game 5, and then Mitch made that terrible foul on Maxey on the 3, and it went to OT, and the Pistons won. If Mitch doesn't make that ridiculous foul, then McBride hit the shot that won the series, and he had a good series. So we have some evidence that Deuce can compete at a high level. Detroit has, I think, a lot. Deuce has long arms, but like Detroit has a lot of guys who are, they're all taller than him. Like every single guard I think that they play is taller, maybe other than Schroeder. And he's got, he's really good too. So I'm not worried about Deuce, but I think this is the only time I'll ever tell you that Miles McBride reminds me of Steve Novak. Steve Novak, if you remember, was like a cult hero in games 1 through 82. But when you got to the playoffs and a scouting report said, okay, do not let him get an open look from 3. He wasn't a shot creator. So Novak would disappear. Like, he didn't become a worse player. It's just that's who he is. Like, he can't create. Deuce has never been a creator. I mean, never is maybe unfair. But if I'm the Pistons in that series, if Miles McBride wants to, all right, I'm going to show you what I can do off the dribble, you are welcome to it. But I'm not letting you get there and load up while the whole crowd is chanting, do it. I'm not letting you do it. And also, Deuce doesn't have like a super quick release. Right. So I think in that series, you're playing tall guards, you're playing bigs who are pretty good switching out on you if they have to. You're not getting a lot of minutes, like you're really not, because the starters are all playing 40-something minutes. Right. Those are all factors that at least make me feel like I think Deuce is still in there. Like maybe these things worked against him, but yeah, if Deuce in game 1 is playing like 11 minutes and he takes 3 shots and he misses them all and that's it, like then I'm going to start to worry because I don't know that if you got to start to play campaign a lot more or what you're going to do.
I think Thibs has to find a way to get both guys in at least 15 to 18 minutes per game. Maybe cut down. Payne and Deuce may have to cut down on Hart's playing time a little bit because he's not a shooter.
I think Hart. I love Josh Hart. To me, the biggest problem with the Knicks is the 5th guy. It's either Hart, McBride, or Mitch. Boston, Cleveland, OKC, all of them have at least 5, usually more, two-way guys who can all shoot. The Knicks have 4. And then you either get Hart, who does everything but shoot. You get Mitch, who does other things, doesn't shoot. You get Deuce, who can shoot if he's open, but he can't create or get himself open. And in a series like this, the Celtic games have been weird this year because like the Knicks have had guys missing for a lot of them, and some Celtics were out for some of them. But one thing that was constant and that really drives me nuts and concerns me going into the series, just because of the size, just for Hart specifically, because the Knicks rely on Hart to be basically a big. He's their second leading rebounder. The number of times where like Hart from the dunker spot or off of a screening action or something, Hart will end up in a position that normally, like if Josh Hart's going up at some dude who's 6'8", you'll take your chances. Hart's a tough, finisher. But when it's KP or when it's Horford and it's Luke Cornett, it's all these giant 7-footers who play together. The Knicks always run into games against the Celtics this year where Hart does everything right, gets to his spot, and there's nothing he can do because the man in front of him is 8 inches taller. And I worry that in this series, I should say I don't ever worry about Josh Hart, but I feel like, when they show you sometimes like a little silhouette of like David and then like Goliath, Josh Hart is David in this series, man. Like, and I would be as interested in what we think about him 2 weeks from now as anybody, because I think I wouldn't put anything past him, but he's got a real tough job in this series.
He does. I think we call him Mr. Intangible. He does all the intangibles, but it comes to a point
a lot of tangibles too. He gets those points. You just call him Mr. Everything. He gets everything.
Yeah, definitely. And he pushes the ball. When he gets that rebound, he's pushing that ball up the court. He's not worried about setting up in a half-court set.
There was a great stat I thought I wanted to make sure I mentioned this to you. And you definitely noticed this in the Pistons series. The Knicks were like dying in the half court.
Oh yeah.
And they were so of all the playoff teams, the Knicks had, I think, the second slowest. It took the Knicks the second longest to like get into get a shot off. They were like the second slowest in the half court. But after a rebound, they were like had the second fastest time getting like to it, and all of that is Hart. Like that's when his ability to get the ball and suddenly, like, you don't think of him as Westbrook because he's not that fast, but for a 6'4" guy to be able to get a ball and just go off with it, like that, I don't know where this team would be, and that's been the case since he got here, like 2 years, 3 years. That's those intangibles that you talk about. Like, there's no number to tell you what that is, but like we all know they're getting 10, 12 points a game because Josh Hart flies with it after a rebound.
Let me ask you a question. The thought just came to my mind during this podcast just a few seconds ago. Boy, I believe the Knicks miss Bojan Bogdanovic. That's a guy. Yeah. That's a guy that could create a shot, get a shot off, come off the bench.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just how the league is now. It's funny that the Knicks have, that whole wingstop trio, and yet the thing they probably need the most on their bench is another wing. And you're right. If you look at it, Boston has their guards, but they also have Sam Hauser. Cleveland has Ty Jerome. They have Sam Merrill. They have Okoro. Those are all DeAndre Hunter. And the Thunder, everyone on the Thunder is like a wing. So it's funny that the Knicks have all these things, but you see it in these games. You see a game where, like, if they just had one more shooter, but they have to have Hart out there, or or a game where, like, okay, Deuce is out there, but like this happens a lot against the Celtics too. Deuce ends up in a lot of actions because they play him up sometimes defensively. Like Deuce against Boston, also like Hart ends up a lot of times against somebody that like you would never expect to see Deuce against, like Jaylenbrown. No. But like he's guarding it. And like, do you remember when the Jets there was a spell when Pennington was quarterback? The Jets used to play the Raiders a couple times in the playoffs. And there were these Raider teams. Rich Gannon was the quarterback. And those Raider teams were so good offensively. I have never been angrier in my life when I used to watch the Jets, because the Jets could never – the Raiders were so good that, like, the Jets would always get them on third down, but could never, ever, ever get them off the field like when they had to. And with the Knicks and the Celtics, the one action – I used to – that I have trauma – I still have bad memories of those Raiders. This series – anytime you see Jaylenbrown shooting over McBride, shooting over Hart, shooting over, just pour a little out for me, because all season when I see that shit, like, it speaks to me of the biggest difference, not the biggest, but one of the biggest differences between the teams is just like Celtics are a lot bigger, and a guy like Bogdanovic, like you're saying, you could play him at 2 and go pretty big. You could really play Hart 1, Bogdanovic 2. Bridges, OG, Town, or whatever you want, and that's a team with size and skill. Yeah,
and I think we will talk after the season's over. We'll talk about what my future additions to the Knicks should be. I know I can say we're not going to keep Campaign for another year. He's been a good player for us, but I think the Knicks is going to probably look for some upgrade in that position. Probably somebody in Orlando. I had my eye on him for a long time. A former New York Knicks player's son.
I like him a lot too. I like him a lot. I couldn't stand his dad's game, but I like his game a lot.
He fits Thibodeau. Defense, shoot the 3, create shots.
You're only, let's see.
Cole Anthony.
Here's your problem.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna do this research until the season's done because it's crazy. But
Yeah.
Because of the CBA apron stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the Knicks are very limited right now in the kinds of moves that they can make. Like there are certain apron restrictions, and I think the Knicks, I don't know if they're in this one, but there's a restriction where like you can't make a trade. I think the Knicks are here. You can't make a trade where you bring back less money than you send out. Like the Knicks cannot add any money.
Mm-hmm.
But also, depending on what apron you're under, sometimes like you can't trade more than one person in a deal, or you can't trade a minimum salary in a deal, or there's another apron where you can't what's the other one? You can't there's a bunch of crazy aprons. So we'll have to see, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I'll throw it out there. Because I love Cole Anthony too, but like the only way they're going to get Cole Anthony would be is if they significantly change their current salary structure. I don't really want to go here because I like just enjoying the season while it's happening. But it's out there, so we'll talk about it. I
thought out there. So
there's an individual, a professional NBA player, originated in Greece, and he very well could be looking to move from where he is. Because Milwaukee's become a very sad situation. And he's not going to want to go. I keep hearing Brooklyn. And I'm sorry for any of if there are any Net fans in existence and you're listening, he's not leaving Milwaukee to come to Brooklyn. No. If he's leaving Milwaukee, it's to go to somewhere. He has said it. I want to win titles, or I want to go win a title somewhere. So I keep wondering if this is going to happen. I don't think it will, but let's just say it could happen. Let's say the Knicks lose this series. And one of the things that will probably kill them when they do is that I don't think this is fair to Towns completely, but you don't really have good options with Towns defensively. Either you're going to have him play drop and he's going to get killed, or I think he's better. Towns had some good sequences guarding Tatum one-on-one this year. He's a little bigger. I'm not saying at all like Towns is going to stop at all Jason Tatum. No. But I think he's better letting him cover than he is having him drop and just give up 1,000 points. But let's say the Knicks lose this series and Towns gets killed defensively. And it's over, and like James Dolan and Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau were all talking, and Dolan likes where this is going. Dolan wants this to keep going. Maybe he feels like, look, the Celtics are going to be here for a couple of years. Towns isn't suddenly going to become a great defender. Do we look to trade Towns for Giannis? Now, it makes sense in a lot of reasons.
Yeah, salary, definitely.
You would say yes.
I really don't want to. I like the feel good story from coming back home. I do like that story.
There's a lot of that.
I really do like that. But if you don't give him up, you're looking at giving him Mitchell Robinson. And I tell you what, Matt, when he's played that last game, Mitchell Robinson played against the Celtics, the dynamics of that game was so different. Boston now had to respect going to the basket.
They were much bigger.
Yeah.
That was the only time this year they played Mitch.
So I don't want to give up Mitch. Mitch is so valuable, not just the blocking shots and protecting the paint. This guy, as tall as he is, can get a steal in open court, stripping guys.
I mean, am not sure that. I think it would be as big of a stylistic change as you can make to in 1 year say we're bringing in Karl Towns, who opens up everything for you offensively, who's like as good a shooter as you're going to see, for a guy who is not a shooter at all. And so here's my concern with Giannis, and obviously if this thing happened, I would assume he might try to make other moves, because if you to me, Towns for Giannis doesn't straight add up for this reason. If you get Giannis plays inside the arc. Bridges plays inside the arc. Brunson plays a lot inside the arc. OG's either in the corner or he's dunking. Hart is better inside the arc. Mitch is better inside the arc. One of the reasons you made the Towns deal and the Barrett trades were, if you remember what the Knicks offense looked like when Brunson first got here versus what it looks like now, it looks a lot nicer because the Knicks have stopped having 5 guys who all want to play or not Grimes, but like everybody else wanted to be inside the arc. If you bring in Giannis, obviously you're bringing in the best guy inside the arc, but now you're all back inside the arc. And with a different coach, and I'm not saying one way or the other whether I would get rid of Thibodeau, but Thibodeau is not the coach who's going to figure out, okay, here's how we make the offense flow with 5 guys. Like, he's not going to do that. So I feel you on the, like, I really have, I would not have guessed I would have liked Towns as much as I already do. Like, I really like him a lot. I would love to see them win with him. I think they can. This is all hypothetical, but I also remember, like, we loved John Starks and we loved Charles Oakley. And like 9 months later, nobody was complaining about the Latrell Sprewell, the Marcus Camby, when the Knicks were in the finals. So,
which, you know, I may be in the minority. A healthy Pat Ewing and a healthy LJ, they're winning that series against the Spurs, in my opinion.
You are in the minority, but it looks like a very happy minority to be.
Yes.
Yeah. So they got something.
So
yeah.
But let's say they pull the trigger. They trade Towns for Giannis. Okay. Leon Rose had to follow up with the Kevin Durant trade, which mikalbridges will then.
How? Because here's the thing. So if you get that, may not even work. Because just with the apron stuff, I know I'm going to tell you this real fast because I see it right now. I know that Giannis. I think Giannis makes 50 to 60 million next year. Giannis next year. Okay. Giannis has 54 million next year and then 58. And then he has a player option for 62 that he'll probably get a bigger contract from someone. Durant, I feel like he's up there too. Durant next year.
He's a free agent, I think.
No, he's got 1 year left. He makes 54 million next year.
Ooh.
You can't bring in Durant and Giannis unless you somehow traded Towns and Brunson and like OG. So it wouldn't be worth it anyway. Right. This apron thing, this is one reason I hate it. Almost every idea, like if you're an apron team, no, you can't do that.
Got you. No, because I felt
it's interesting you raised that. I just want to say it's interesting you raised that because Mark Stein, one of the earliest reports that Mark Stein had after Phoenix's season ended, was talking about what teams were initially being mentioned as like checking in on him or known to have checked in on him, and the Knicks were one of them, which just I found interesting because I don't know how you fit that money in there, but keep your eyes open.
Definitely. Looking forward to that. But let's skip too far. That's my fault. I brought it up, but let's
bring up whatever you want.
Let's focus on the series now with the Boston Celtics. The guy, the X factor for me in the series for the New York Knicks has got to be the Shaman needs to get some significant playing time in the series. We're gonna need offense. Defensively, we're not gonna stop this team. They got too many guys who spread the floor and can make their own shots. You got Derek White, you got KP, who's the third scorer who could go off for 40.
Whose minutes do you want Shamet eating into?
Yes, he has to eat into the three forwards and guards that's going to be playing the 40 minutes.
So maybe less Hart.
Oh, I need OG on the floor. OG is the one guy I can't take off the floor. But Hart and Bridges, you cut their minutes down a little bit. That's the way to, you know what it is, Matt? If you're a great coach, you know how to do the rotations right to make everything work. And I'm gonna go back to the Detroit series, Game 5, when both Hart and Brunson got hurt. They couldn't come back in the game because of time. He was worried about using a timeout. Listen, if you got to sacrifice 2 points on a foul to get those guys back in the game, we're closing that. We possibly could close that series out in 5.
I'll say this though, I did a show right after it, and I wrote about it, and I ripped him, and his explanation after made sense to me. Because of the new rules, when Brunson got hurt and they had to pull him, they had 2 timeouts because the rule is once you hit 2 minutes, you have 2 timeouts. So once Brunson got hurt, to get him off the floor, they had to use the timeout. So he's got 1 timeout left now with more than a minute left when they want to check back in. If he uses it late in the game, like there's no advancing the ball, there's no, like, you're stuck. I was losing. I think everybody was losing their minds. I was ranting about it. I wrote about it. But in retrospect, like I think, and this actually ties into what I wanted to ask you. You had just mentioned like a good coach will pick the rotate, will know the rotation like that works.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this Knicks team has a rotation that works against the Celtics? Like, is there an answer? Do the Knicks have an answer to the Celtics?
Honestly, they don't.
I don't think so.
They don't.
I don't think. And again, other than maybe the Thunder and maybe the Cavs, I'm not sure about either one of them. But like, at least I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody else that I would be like, they have a better chance than the Knicks. I think the Knicks are right up there, but I think this is kind of, if they're healthy, kind of a perfect team.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person is a two-way stud who can shoot the three.
Mm-hmm.
So all of playoff basketball strategy is based on finding and exploiting weaknesses. So when you have a team that doesn't have one, you see what you see. Like, they're tough. I know some people, and I understand it. The thought of spending the next 2 weeks watching the Celtics, if we spend the next 2 weeks watching the Celtics beat the Knicks just up and down, that's not going to be a happy time, like, for anybody. But the question is, I know everybody's in love with their beloved 2024 Knicks. I don't think that team was getting any closer than this team was to touching these Celtics. So I feel like this season, to me, the whole point of the season was, let's put together at least a lineup that we think, let's see how it does against the best. Because this is, I looked this up. This is the first time the Knicks are playing a defending champion in the playoffs since 1994, technically. Jordan was retired. So really like 1993, okay? So it's been over 30 years. This is how you identify what do we need. It's all speculation until you actually go up against the best and see. Remember, Boston lost to Golden State. They had to see, all right, we're really good. We've been good, but now we've seen the best. And since then, they did what they had to. Denver lost for years. They were right there. Couldn't get it. Milwaukee, Toronto. That's how everyone does it. The Knicks the last couple of years have had nice seasons. They have not ended against the best. Atlanta 4 years ago, no, not the best. Miami a couple of years ago, nice team, not the best. And Indiana last year, please. So this is finally it.
Yeah.
Even if they lose, at least now I go into an offseason being like, okay, what does my team need to do? Instead of going into an offseason thinking, I wonder what it would take one day if they were going to. That's a different energy, you know?
Yeah. But I must say that Miami, seriously, he was dealing with a superior coach on the other sideline, though. We got to be honest.
Other than Ty Lue, probably all of them are dealing with a superior coach when they go up against Spo.
But he had JVG. Ty Lue had JVG on his bench.
Secret weapon, the ringer.
Yep. But
did you see in Game 7 there was a point when Lue was arguing with the referee, and all of a sudden, like, the camera pulls out and like, Van Gundy, they're 2-on-1. I'm like, Van Gundy, sit down. And did you see a couple weeks ago when he grabbed was it Jokic? It was. And people were like, Jeff, keep your hands off those coaches. Keep your hands off those players. You know what? You got away with Zoe.
Oh my goodness. I really miss JVG. I felt, revisionist history. I think he was pissed off they didn't draft Ron Artest. That's why he quit after 19 games.
Yeah, at least wasn't happy about Frederick Weiss.
No.
I always like seeing Van. It always makes me happy to see Van Gundy.
Yeah, but everybody's talking about if the Knicks lose, we're gonna replace Tom Thibodeau. Who are you gonna replace him with? Michael Malone? That's probably the best. That's probably the best one to do it because he's been an assistant coach in the Knicks organization. He understands the Knicks organization in New York. But would you want to do that?
There's two concerns I would have. One would be Mike Malone, I think, comes out of the same, to some extent, the same coaching tree if you go back far enough. As very loyal dude. Would Mike Malone want to replace Tom Thibodeau? He might not. Right. But even if he did, the other question would be, you remember when the Mets got rid of the Mets were getting rid of
Davey.
No. It was Bob. It was, I think, Bobby
V.
Maybe Bobby Valentine. Yeah, the Knicks were getting rid of Bobby Valentine. They fired Bobby Valentine. Made a big show about they were going to go after Lou Piniella, who was still with Tampa, and so they would have to work out a trade. And if you remember, they couldn't agree on compensation with Tampa, and Seattle ended up trading a very good outfielder, a center fielder. They traded an outfielder. They got Lou Piniella. Mariners had some good years, obviously, there. But the Mets, after they didn't get Piniella, they ended up hiring Art Howe. And I remember being furious at the time, not because of Art Howe, who had a lot of success with Oakland. To me, it was, you can't tell me about, because I was bothered that they got rid of Bobby V, but not Phillips also. Like, if you're going to get rid of one, get rid of the guy who brought him in. But they let Phillips bring in Art Howe. And then we just watched you, like, for a month tell us, like, that you want Lou Piniella, because Lou Piniella is a certain kind of dude. We want this guy. We want this culture setter. We want this. And then when you don't get him, you bring in Art Howe, which there's a lot. I have no problem with Art Howe. But when someone tells you to go to the store and come home with Lou Piniella, and you come with Art Howe, you're going to have to do some explaining. Like, that's not, something went wrong. Mike Malone seems to me temperamentally a lot like Tom Thibodeau. To be fair, the Knicks publicly really, really, really seem to like that. Like, even Tibbs has been here 5 years. Nobody really complains about him at all. They love him. Even guys when they leave, like, and the only guys who've ever complained about it are not generally missed. Like Evan Fournier, we understand, but like nobody misses you. Quentin Grimes had some issues. I'm glad things worked out for you so far in Philly, but nobody really misses you that much. But I will say for Mike Malone, if he's Thibodeau with a better offensive mind, now that might be something. Because maybe the defensive framework has been laid down. But I think what this team probably needs next is someone who is going to, and this is as much on Brunson, I think, as Thibodeau, they have to play faster. You got to start playing faster and getting up more threes. Could be a Mike Malone. The only other person I can think of that, because I've thought about this question, and to me, there's not that many obvious. Like if Spoelstra is available, sure, but like I don't think he's going to be. The only other name, and I don't think he would ever do it. I don't think he would ever step in for a fired Thibodeau. Would be Jeff Van Gundy.
No, he won't do that.
He'd never do it. So I think Leon Rose likes Thibodeau a lot. I think now if the Knicks had lost to the Pistons, maybe. But I think as long as the Knicks do not completely crap the bed in this round, I think Thibodeau's fine.
Listen, if Thibodeau will get these guys 6 games, let's throw him a parade.
I gotta tell you though, man, I'm more down on him than I've ever been. I still like and appreciate all. It's not even down on him. It's more that like, okay, you know, I had a piano teacher. You know, I went to school to do music. That's what I was going to do. And I had a piano teacher who stopped working with me my junior year. And I was like, why don't you? I was like, I loved this woman. I was very thrown. And I love her for this ever since then. She was like, you've hit a point now that like, if you want to go where you're going to go next, like I can't get you there. Like you've got to, now you got to go a different way to get there. And she was right. And, you know, sometimes someone's great at like a lot of things, but like if your thing is like, I want to get farther, I want to get to the next point. To me, if Thibodeau's going to play his guys, which he does, 35 minutes a game, just his 5 guys, then I needed to see that team has to win like 60 games and be a monster. The team's not that. Right. And that approach to me is never going to work. Not with this 5. And every year you do it, you put a lot. This is a car this is not a 5-year-old car with 40,000 miles. This is a 5-year-old car with like 80,000 miles. So I'm starting to think more, you know, it's that tension as a fan. Like he's the best coach they've had since Van Gundy. I don't sleep on that. Like that's enormous. That's enormous what he's done. But if I ever want them to win a title, just like I don't think that Julius Randle could have stayed the best player on a Knicks team that was going to contend for a title. I don't think Tom Thibodeau can stay the coach on a Knicks team that's contending for a title. If you're contending for the second round, yes, absolutely. But I think they might be past that. But the question is always for me is Leon Rose is not just some dude. Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau have a long personal, professional relationship. This whole front office and the Brunsons and the Roses and the Rose's son is OG's agent. Like the Knicks are very all tangled up together. I'm very interested. I hope as a fan, obviously, that they win or at least play a really good series. If they don't, it's going to be really interesting to see like something's going to probably something's going to change. But what's it going to be?
Me personally, I think the Villanova.
You think Jay Wright?
Can they do that? Can they pull that off with Jay Wright? Does Jay Wright even want to coach the Knicks? Coach pro? I've heard people throughout even throughout Rick Pitino.
Leave St. John. Please leave St. John. We just got St. John's back. Leave St. John alone. I had so much fun. Leave him alone.
Well, disappointing first the way he lost against Calipari, but he's bringing those.
That's tough. Yeah, but they're having a very nice transfer season.
Exactly, and think about it. We change the subjects a little bit, but we'll go back to that. Rick Pitino comes back home to New York and coaches the Red Storm.
Yep.
This last trail of a Hall of Fame coaching career. Comes back home to coach the St. John's Red Storm.
So I learned something I never knew before in the Knicks Pistons series that relates to this, and strictly just as a professional, as a coach, it puts Rick Pitino in an interesting place. Like when you're talking the greatest New York, the greatest like NYC basketball coaches like ever. Rick Pitino, I didn't know this until like a week ago, where the Knicks won that famous one of the games in that '84 series when the Knicks beat the Pistons. Hubie Brown got ejected, and the Knicks won. I think it might have been Game 5 with Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino took over to coach them on the bench. So that's 41 years ago. So over 41 years, he coaches the Knicks to a big playoff win. Comes back a couple of years later, then gets a bunch of New York kids up to Providence, gets them in the Final Four. Comes back to New York to take over the Knicks. Takes them to their first 50-win season in a while. They're 2 wins from the conference finals. Then he goes to Kentucky. Brings a bunch of New York kids to Kentucky. He wins there. Everywhere he goes, he brings New York kids. And then then he comes back to, I think it was Iona. And then when you finally think like, all right, that's a career, like he's done. He comes back to St. John's, which 20, 25 years has been
up and down.
This guy's going to save us. This guy's Chris Mullin, Mike Anderson, everybody. No one ever thought about Rick Pitino. No. And not only does he come back and have like a nice year, Rick Pitino, he has their best year since Jarvis. And has continued to think about it. They're so good that they finished top 5, but lost in the second round.
No, it was the first round.
Was it?
It was the first round. The 5 was they were I think they were like they were the first round, but they were like a high seed.
They were.
They lost to Calipari and was it Kentucky?
They were that low? No, it was Arkansas. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're like number 2 or number 3 seed in the
I think it was 310. I think it was 310. I think
yeah.
So great, but as disappointing as it ended, all you have right now vibe-wise around St. John's today is like just brimming with positivity because and then they lose their leading scorer, and still it's just like it just keeps getting. It seems to be getting better and better. Rick Pitino has had as good of a. I'm sure there's someone I'm not thinking of, but I can't think of many who have an argument as much as like an NYC coaching goat as Rick Pitino does.
I can't say the same.
I don't know if I'm not thinking of, but like there cannot be many.
No, not many.
Maybe not. Not any.
I'll go as far as say that him taking the Iona job was to set up to him to get to St. John's.
Yes, absolutely. Which, to be fair,
yeah,
there are reasons why Rick Pitino had some jobs not open to him, but not had nothing to do with his coaching, but did have something to do with like Rick Pitino. What are you thinking?
Strippers.
But that was part of the unexpected road. The prodigal son did not file a bunch of road signs. He got home though.
He got home. So definitely. So like I said, key in the series for the Knicks to possibly upset the defending world champions. Yeah. Mitchell Robinson got to be big in this series, controlling the paint. mikalbridges and OG got to be paramount, top of their game on the perimeter with Tatum and Brown. They got some practice with the Detroit Pistons. I think going through the tough season with the Pistons makes them much more prepared.
Yeah,
because those Piston boys, that's an up-and-coming team right there. Yeah. And who would have thought? Jimmy Bickerstaff leaves the Cavs. He didn't do his best job with the Cavs, but all of a sudden, guess the Detroit team that's won about 18 games last season.
14
games last season to a game 6 in the opening round series.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, his replacement Atkinson is the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. By the way, a former Knicks assistant head coach. Just throw it
in. Straight out of Northport. I wrote a few months ago a piece about why I thought JB Bickerstaff should win ahead of Atkinson for Coach of the Year. Mm-hmm. And I think everything that you've seen since then would continue to support that. I'm very happy for him. I didn't like that I never like when coaches get fired because it's rarely their fault. But like he got the Cavs, he's the one who kind of brought them back up and then it's not his. They had a million injuries last year. Yeah. But they can't argue with, so far how it's been. But I think Detroit also props to Detroit because sometimes this looks like a bad thing, but sometimes it's not. Mm-hmm. Detroit gave Monty Williams like a Godfather deal to come coach them. And from what you hear from everybody around, from a lot of people, like it seems like very quickly like clear that like this isn't working and like this isn't working at all. Like Monty's not into this. This isn't working. A lot of teams would be like, well, we just hired him. We gave him a huge the biggest 5-year deal, and Pistons fired him after a year. Mm-hmm. And then they didn't hire some cheap assistant who was going to get the lowest. No, they brought in JB Bickerstaff. He's like, mm-hmm. And you don't have to. The Pistons had a terrible, terrible, terrible season, but like. I'm really glad. I think the league is better when Detroit is good. It's a great fan base. It's a great place to watch your team have to go play when they're good. The East is much more fun when Detroit is good than when they're not.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. But I had a thought too, but I forgot too. Oh well.
Well, we can tell we're both in our 40s. This is not a 20-year-old man's podcast.
not anymore, but we're very, very, very seasoned in this podcast. But we've seen a lot of great basketball in the New York Knicks over the years, so we can't expect this team to do well when they're good.
What do you need to see in this series, either in terms of outcome or in terms of just what you watch, that whenever it's over, even if they lose, or unless you need them to win, mm-hmm. What do you need to see that a couple weeks from now you're like, I'm happy with are you happy with how the season is now, or do you still need to see something in this series that will make you feel like, okay, now I feel good going into the off season?
Let me start off with if my feelings on the season. For me, despite winning the 51 games, being the number 3 seed in this season, for me it's a disappointing season because they haven't had that signature win this entire season, and that does not look good when you're going up against the upper echelon, Boston, Cavaliers, OKC. They have not had those signature wins like they had last year.
Yeah, true.
Especially when you traded away. Guys you traded away, and I remember, man, I'm not a big fan of Julius Randle. I call him Julius.
I do.
But
I do.
For him and DiFrancesco to end their series in 5 games against Luka and LeBron on the other side of the court is impressive.
Julius Randle might as well have been born from my body for the amount of pride that I felt watching him in that series. I have spent years defending this man, telling people when you're on a just surgically, I think, repaired ankle, or just when you're on a bum ankle that you missed like a month of games for and just came back for the playoffs, and you're up against the #1 defense in the league, including Evan Mobley guarding you, and you hurt the ankle again at the end of that series, the last game. When you come back after missing a game, now you're up against Bam Adebayo and that defense. Maybe that had something to do with Randall's struggles. Maybe everyone who had some armchair analysis of what's going on in his head needed to just a lot of it. I mean, we all do it. I've done it with people too. But like, I always felt very defensive of him because he does not hide. He's the kind of person, you see kids like this when you work with kids, like and people, like some people, they cannot hide whatever they are feeling. And he works in a profession where that hurts him. Like you are supposed to hide. You've got to hide it. Some guys are beloved for hiding it. He can't.
Right.
And you would see it when he would like teammates would try to, I didn't like it. You'd see him sometimes lash out at quickly and lash out at coaches and like, but he was so real to me. Like you could just see like wherever this guy came from, like he carries it with him. Like, and he's done, look at his life. Like, and not just his like professional success. He's got children. He's been, he's had this family of his for years. Like he opened a school, like I think it was in the Bronx or in Brooklyn. Like he's done. This is a man who has come from less and not only made infinitely more for himself, riches for himself, riches for his loved ones, but like who has brought community up with him. And you think you just want to look past the ankle because you want to have a take. Like, 22 points a game in that series. He shot 39% from 3 and did a lot of it against LeBron and Luka on both ends. I'm very, very, very happy. I hope that they get Golden State because I think he can do work against Golden State.
I think so too.
I think Houston's a little bigger and trickier, just defensively. But yeah, like you're saying, I just wrote a piece that just came out today at the Strickland detailing the 11 ex-Knicks who have all been in the playoffs this year, and Randall and Devo, the Timberwolves are my #2 team this year. Every time I watch a Western game, that's what I'm rooting for.
It took this too. You know this too. It took a while for that team to come together.
Yeah,
it took them it took an entire season.
They had the same shock, maybe even a bigger shock than the Knicks did, because remember it was a couple weeks before training camp. Somebody was banging like that was a huge shock for them. Totally changed the way they played. Then they had the ownership thing, hanging over them much of the season. Minnesota is a big, skilled, defensive, kind of nasty team. I like them a lot. Like I would love to see them play the Thunder in the conference finals. I think that would be a hell of a series. My dream finals is still alive. Knicks T-Wolves. I'm still holding out hope.
Listen, the Knicks can do it, but it's going to take a collective effort. Guys got to step up. Guys got to play. They got to play 48 minutes. They can't close their eyes for a second.
And let us not underestimate the contributions of the Orlando Magic in bruising Jaylen Brown's finger and like spraining Jason Tatum's wrist and gashing KP's head. They did their part. Now the rest is up to the Knicks.
Absolutely. But I must say before I let you go, I want this Knicks team to give us a good show in the second round. We had higher expectations than just the second round, but consider how things fell into place. We're facing defending world champions. Whether they're banged up or not, it is what it is. But the season has gotten. We got over the fear in the first round. because let's be real. We all had our Rolades at the edge of our seat every game against Detroit. Let's be real. Detroit didn't have Stewart playing. They still got injured in the first game. They didn't have the key players in that series. But if everything goes according to plan, if Bridges can somehow find his Brooklyn Nets offensive touch, and OG is just playing bully ball at the 3 position.
Yeah.
The only thing I do ask of Thibs, though, in the playoffs, you don't have to just play 6-7 players. There was opportunities in that series against the Pistons. Precious Achiuwa could have been an asset in that series defensively and grabbing rebounds to help out. He didn't use them. Shamet played how many minutes in the Detroit Pistons series? 3-4 minutes?
Yeah.
His offensive production could have helped the Knicks too to open things up for Brunson and Towns. He didn't use them.
And this is going to be tough because Boston is everyone that you're looking at a pass is deeper than you. So if you're going to go narrow, your guys have to outplay your 6 have to outplay their 8. You may do that some nights. But like 4 out of 7 over 3 series in a row.
And Mazzulla is not afraid to play 10-man rotation. He's not afraid to do that.
Mazzulla will play 3 people on the floor. That motherfucker does not care. He will do anything. He'll play 5-on-3 and find an advantage in it.
Yeah.
But they have a coach who does, who will. Different coaches have different strengths. I'm just saying.
I got you.
If I'm stuck in a room and it's filling up with water and like I don't see how to get out, and either Tom Thibodeau's going to help me fix the problem or Joe Mazzulla, get Joe Mazzulla in that room.
He came from Ime Udoka.
Came from that tree.
Came from that tree. But Matt, I'm thank you for coming on the podcast with me. I know you've been busy. I've kind of been busy too. I haven't had the opportunity to really settle myself because a new job and stuff like that.
Right.
And when I come home, I'm drained. So it's hard for me to really put that podcast up together and things like that. But definitely thank you for joining us on the show. We're gonna link up, but next week or the week after, see what happens.
Yeah, we will talk soon, man.
We'll talk soon, but definitely we haven't had an opportunity to watch the Mets, talk about the Mets yet. But we'll wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks from now. Right now, it's still next season.
Yeah.
So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the podcast. You can follow me on YouTube at True Players Podcast. I'm now on TikTok. Pages under construction on TikTok, but hopefully by the next day or so, we will have a trailer of this podcast as my first posting on TikTok. Definitely follow me on Spotify. Things are happening in True Players Podcast. 2 months away from now, from the 7-year anniversary of the podcast. 2 months away. So
nice.
So we gonna do big things. And on that note, I'm gonna sign off for both of us. Guys, have a blessed night. Enjoy the Knicks series. We'll be back soon. Peace.
Peace.